The original plan of the 7th Corps had contemplated a 2-division drive on Cherbourg, with the 90th Division on the right and the 4th Division on the left. The 9th Division was to be close at hand should the need for its employment in this operation arise. The plan was modified in the first 3 days of the operation as a result of the protracted struggle for the Mer de Ray bridgehead and the determined enemy resistance along the Quenneville Ridge. After a meeting between General Bradley, General Collins, and some of the division commanders on June 18th, it was decided that the drive on Cherbourg would be made by 3 divisions abreast: the 4th on the right, the 79th in the center, and the 9th on the left. The gap between the 79th and 9th Divisions and the 4th Division's right flank were to be covered by the 4th and 24th Squadrons of the 4th Cavalry Group. Among the factors which contributed to this change were recent reports concerning enemy dispositions, the unreadiness of the 90th Division, and the availability of the 79th Division. For the next 8 days, the effort of the entire 7th Corps was to be directed towards the capture of Cherbourg, and was in fact the focus of attention of the whole First Army, since future operations were greatly dependent on the seizure of this port. Between the Douve and the Mer de Ray, where the 79th Division was to pass through the 90th, were fragments of the German 77th and 91st Divisions that had been trapped by the rapid thrust of the 9th Division beyond the Douve. During the 4 days prior to the jump-off for Cherbourg, the German units opposite the 4th Division had the time to prepare defenses, especially in the Montebourg area. After the capture of Quenneville, the only American activity there was patrolling and reorganization. As the 8th and 12th Infantry Regiments improved their positions, the 22nd Infantry took over the Quenneville area and was in turn relieved by the 24th Cavalry Squadron. The 4th Division's attack started as a night operation at 0300 hours, with the 8th and 12th Regiments bypassing Montebourg to form a line from La Victoire to Houberville. The enemy was well dug in along the railway. It was only thanks to the support of the 70th Tank Battalion that the 8th and 12th Regiments were able to break the German line. Westward in the peninsula, enemy opposition was progressively lighter. Advancing northward, the 79th Division encountered only delaying actions on the roads and made good progress on its first day of combat. The division's line of departure was the former objective line of the 90th Division, and the objective was the high ground west and northwest of Valognes. The town itself was out of the division zone, and the 315th Infantry Regiment was instructed to bypass it and cut the Valognes-Cherbourg highway. On the left flank, the 313th Infantry met only light resistance and took its objective by 1400 hours. The advance of the 315th Infantry was slower. The 1st Battalion drew fairly heavy enemy fire north of Urville, and the 2nd Battalion was counterattacked after passing Lusant. By nightfall, the regiment was still short of its objective, and a considerable number of stragglers offered scattered resistance west of Valognes. In view of this situation, General Weitsch decided to contain the town from the west using the 315th Infantry. The 313th was now to make the main effort on the right of the division's zone, and the 314th was to come up on its left. The 9th Division made an even more rapid advance up the west coast. In fact, it was little more than a road march. The 60th and 39th Infantry Regiments moved out at 0550, each with 2 battalions abreast. Initially, there was no contact with the enemy, but none had been expected. The best estimate was that the Germans had fallen back to Cherbourg, though it was thought they might have strong points around Briquebec and Le Pieux. However, there was no opposition all morning. The 4 battalions advanced rapidly to their objectives, taking 100 enemy stragglers prisoner, and the 39th Infantry found the body of General Stegmann of the 77th Division. The advance of the division had been so rapid that it was necessary to pause momentarily to effect coordination with the other elements of the Corps. On the 9th Division's right flank, the 4th Cavalry Squadron was able to keep pace for a while, encountering only slight resistance. The situation changed near Rocheville, where the advance elements of Troop A suddenly drew heavy artillery, mortar, and small arms fire. General Eddy was anxious to press the retreating enemy to deny him time for reorganization in the rugged terrain around Cherbourg. However, further advance without flank protection seemed inadvisable. In order to keep contact with the 9th Division, the 4th Cavalry Squadron spread its forces thin to extend the unit's zone of operation. By nightfall, the 60th Infantry had reached Helleville, and the 39th had secured the highway junction northeast of Couville. Meanwhile, General Collins received the Army commander's authorization to have the 1st Battalion, 359th Infantry, take over the Rocheville area. With this adjustment, the 4th Cavalry Squadron was able to reach the 9th Division's 2 regiments and form an east-to-west line running through Couville. On June 20th, General Barton moved the 22nd Infantry from Fontenay-sur-Mer into a new assembly area on the Quenneville Ridge. The 4th Division's plan for this day was an attack with all 3 regiments. When the attacks began, it was found that the enemy had broken contact and retired northward, similar to the 9th Division's experience the preceding day. With the cutting of the peninsula, General von Schlieben has lost physical contact with the main German forces outside Cotentin and was now on his own. Threatened with outflanking by the rapid push of the 9th Division, he decided to disengage during the night. Despite the absence of opposition, the 4th Division's progress was slow all morning. The 22nd Infantry moved cautiously, unwilling to believe that the enemy had withdrawn. In the afternoon, General Collins directed General Barton to have the 8th Infantry seize Hill 178, the 12th Infantry take La Rogerie, and the 22nd Infantry advance past Hamaugalis. Except for Hill 178, these objectives were reached that night. The 79th Division's main effort on June 20th was made on the right, along the Valognes-Cherbourg highway, in conjunction with the 4th Division, the objective being the heights dominating Cherbourg from the southeast. At St. Joseph, the 313th Infantry captured 4 light enemy tanks and an 88mm gun intact. Resistance increased as the regiment continued northward. At Delas, the regiment's leading elements encountered outposts of the prepared German line and the advance stopped abruptly. The 314th Infantry's experience on the left was similar. Southwest of Brie, the regiment captured 8 tanks, and in the late afternoon it was halted by artillery fire. Both regiments now sensed that they had come up against the prepared fortifications which lay 4 or 5 miles out from Cherbourg. The 9th Division continued its efforts to envelop the Cherbourg defenses and seize the high ground west of the city. In the attack on June 20th, it was time to commit the 47th Infantry Regiment as well. Each regiment was supported by a company of tank destroyers and 2 battalions of field artillery. The 60th Infantry also had 1 company of tanks, and the 4th Cavalry Squadron, protecting the division's right flank, was reinforced with 2 companies of tank destroyers. General Eddy expected Cherbourg to fall in a day or 2, but the battles that followed proved this view to be over-optimistic. In fact, before the day ended, it was necessary to revise the entire plan of operation. While the 60th Infantry Regiment was able to reach the high ground south of Biville, the 47th suffered serious casualties at the crossroads southeast of Acqueville. One 88mm shell landed in the center of a small group of the command, killing the commander of the 2nd Battalion, the artillery liaison officer, and a platoon leader from Company F. Among the wounded was both the commander and the executive officer of Company F. The heavy resistance at the crossroads had an immediate repercussion, since the execution of the whole 9th Division plan hinged largely on the 47th Infantry breaking through at this point. Consequently, General Eddy altered the original plan. He ordered 2 battalions of the 60th Infantry to proceed at once to Flottmanville-Hague and then to Henneville. 1 battalion of the 39th Infantry was to move north and occupy Flottmanville-Hague after its capture by the 60th Infantry. General Eddy was still optimistic and believed that with these adjustments the advance could be continued. However, the 1st and 2nd Battalions of the 60th Infantry immediately encountered enemy fire from prepared positions near Grubaville and were unable to go farther. Consequently, the 39th Infantry could not implement its plan either, and the orders were cancelled. Thus, on June 20th, the rapid progress of the 9th Division came to a sudden halt. The resistance which the enemy began to offer on the line Grubaville-Acqueville-Cideville was impressive, and the 9th Division was well aware that it had now run into the prepared positions around Cherbourg. General Collins ordered all divisions to probe the main line of resistance during the night, but avoid getting into heavy fights. The 9th and the 79th Divisions devoted the next day to patrolling. Only the 4th Division was able to make marginal gains on June 21st. The division regiments had hardly reached their new positions when large but apparently unorganized German forces outflanked the 22nd Infantry. For the next 4 days and nights, the enemy interrupted communications and supply. All supply convoys had to be escorted by tanks to get through, and even so, their success was uncertain. By nightfall, all 3 divisions were pressed against the main line of resistance and were ready for the final assault on Fortress Cherbourg.